All right, so this week we're going to be talking about breaking the ice with cause and effect. All this week you've been learning about cause and effect, and you've probably noticed that there is no cause and effect project that's due today. I have taken it out, and in place of it, we're going to be learning about cause and effect today because I want you to understand what that type of essay is, even though in this class you're not required to do that project. Our objectives for this lesson: students will be able to identify and apply elements of cause and effect writing. So we're going to do a quick warm-up and try to answer at least one of these questions. Have you heard of cause and effect before? What is it? Have you ever had to write a cause and effect essay before? And if you have, what were the easiest and most difficult parts of writing your cause and effect essay? Awesome job. You are absolutely correct. So we're going to move on to our definition of what is cause and effect. I like your definition a lot better. Mine's very simple. It's when one event causes another to happen. And what I like to remember is that the cause is why something happens, and the effect is what happens afterwards. So I like that definition, though. Definitely. I try to simplify things a little bit to help students understand. So in addition to cause and effect, you've probably been seeing this word causal analysis throughout your course this week, right? Basically, causal analysis is a fancy word for writing a cause and effect essay. It's an essay that you write about the issue that has a cause and an effect. Causal analysis is when you research the cause, and sometimes you can find out what the effect is by researching that particular cause. And so basically we're taking the idea of cause and effect, and you're just kind of analyzing it and doing research, essentially. Does that make sense? Cool. So when we are talking about researching for cause and effect, sometimes you're like, well, I don't really know what to research necessarily. We talked a little bit about sources last week, but I did want to talk a little bit more about sources this week. And when you're doing research for your causal analysis, if you had to do this particular project, which you don't, when you want to do research for that project, you're going to want to try to find as much information about the cause as you can, and as a result, you're going to discover the effect. So we're going to talk a little bit more about evaluating which sources to use, and we're going to watch a quick video. Hold on just a moment.
best part about the internet is that nobody knows you're a fish. Not every word that you read online is true. Some sites contain lies. Figure out which sites you can trust. Just follow the plane and come with us. Some types of sites are more off the true. Check the domain suffix for a clue. From the federal government, let's see. Getgoodfacts.gov. Info from schools is off the true. Educational sites.edu. A non-profit group is good most times. See online.org. But do you send bias or opinion? Try to figure why some post was written, and don't trust sites with kittens. I'm just kidding, we stay winning. Can I trust it? Yes, you can. If the source is verified, follow the plan. Can I trust it? No, you can't. If it's some random blog or an angry rant, yes. Can I trust it? Yes, you can. If the source is verified, follow the plan. Can I trust it? No, you can't. If it's some random blog or an angry rant, so yes. Now you're on abase.com, whatever. Follow these steps to evaluate it better. Who wrote the article? An expert or professor? Or some random blogger named Fwong Fuzzler? Are they writing for a publication? If so, is it a major one where they verify the info? Or visit a site where gossip spread? News alert, Beyonce kicks giraffe in the head. When was it written? Has it been a minute? Are there new facts that the article is missing? If it was written when disco was poppin', it's probably something more recent on your topic. Is there bias? Does it lean right or left? Is the tone so informal that it sounds like a text? Is it misspelled and the grammar's a mess? If yes, then it's on to the next. Can the information be verified? Does the off-the-site sources in her lines? 32% of facts are made up. That fact I made up, don't cite it, wait up. Beware of Wikipedia, anyone can edit, but some lines cite sources, so check it. You need to see where the info comes from, and don't cite satire sites like The Onion. Can I trust it? Yes, you can. If the source is verified, follow the plan. Can I trust it? No, you can't. If it's some random blog or an angry rant, yes. Can I trust it? Yes, you can. If the source is verified, follow the plan. Can I trust it? No, you can't. If it's some random blog or an angry rant, yes.
Alright, so I bet you definitely learned some new things about evaluating sources. Can you think of an example of a type of source that you learned from the video that might be a good one to use? Good job. So we are kind of going to talk about that a little bit more. You want to use sources that are written by someone credible. Sources that are .gov, that is government, you're correct. .edu, those are like educational websites. Sometimes it's written by a specific college. Those would be a good website. And .org, those are organizations. So those would be really good websites. And so here's an example. This probably wouldn't be the best website because it's a kids website, but www.pbskids.org. A lot of times they'll have information for kids. However, there are some websites that don't end in these that are credible. I know that I get a lot of information when I'm trying to research something, especially if it's like an animal. I'll use nationalgeographic.com, and that's a .com. You just have to be careful about what sources you use and making sure that they're good sources. Something else that you could use when you're doing research is Google Scholar. It's a feature that you can use in your Google search engine where you can kind of filter out those sources that aren't as credible. When you use Google Scholar, it comes up with sources like the .gov, .edu, those kinds of things, and they're usually really good sources. So even though we're not writing one of these, I still wanted to talk about the format of the essay. If you were to write one, you might have had to write one in the past, or you might have to write one in the future. For a typical 5-paragraph essay, you're always going to have your introduction paragraph first. For body paragraph number 1, you're going to talk about effect number 1. So when you're researching, you want to think of multiple different effects for one cause. Because for paragraph 1, you're going to talk about effect number 1. For body paragraph 2, you're going to talk about effect number 2. Body paragraph 3, you're going to talk about effect number 3. And then, of course, paragraph 5 is going to be your conclusion. When you're in your body paragraphs, this is where your research is going to come into play. You're going to have reasons and explanations to back up your responses. And, of course, each of your effects is backed up by that research as well. Do you have any questions about, like, the general format of a cause and effect, or? Okay. It's just an outline just to help you kind of format the general idea of a cause and effect essay. So now we're going to practice identifying cause and effect. So this is something that you've kind of looked at in your class, but we haven't had a lot of practice with this together. So we'll kind of go through number 1 together and see if you can identify 2 and 3 on your own. So for number 1, Billy forgot to set his alarm, then he woke up late for school. So in this sentence, which one's the cause? And that would make our effect which part? Good. Because he forgot to set his alarm, that caused him to be late for school. So that was the effect. So that's how I like to think of cause. If like something caused something, so the thing that caused it would be the cause, and then the thing that happened would be the effect. That's kind of how I like to think of it. What about number 2? The children were playing loudly outside, therefore Mom had a hard time getting work done. Okay, and then the effect. You definitely got it. All right, do you want to practice with number 3, or do you feel okay with this? It's up to you, because I think you've gotten it okay. Okay, so number 3, people often litter instead of putting their trash in the trash can, and then the ocean becomes polluted. So what's our cause? And what's the effect? The ocean becomes polluted. Good job. Alright, so now we're going to make this a little more real. And these are examples of causes from the course. Obviously, I just made a sentence that picked the first one. But using one of these topics, could you think of 3 possible effects? That's supposed to say effects. It's a typo. If you have one of these topics, this is a cause, right? Well, it's more of an issue. So if you could think of a cause and an effect of one of these issues, because these are very vague and they're not really taking a side. They're just kind of topics or problems, so to speak. So we have the problem of obtaining clean drinking water, the problem of homelessness, terrorism, illegal immigration, the cost of education, and hunger. Think of like an example, like cause and effect sentence that you can make for that. I like it. The problem of terrorism brings war and devastation to the world. Is that something that you could research and find some effects, do you think? Are you sure? Because if you want to pick a different one, you can. You good with this one? Okay. Alright. That's a good thing, because your next task, let's see, is creating a thesis statement based on your cause, which I think you basically did have a thesis statement. Do you think that statement can be your thesis statement? The problem of terrorism brings war and devastation in the world. The important thing that you want to evaluate with your thesis statement is that you have to list your cause, and then you have to kind of say the stance that you would take on it. So with cause and effect, you kind of have to give your opinion without actually saying I think or I feel. So your thesis statement wants to say whether you're looking at the cause or the effect and your position. So here's an example. The topic is gun control in the United States, and the stance or your thesis would be lack of gun control has caused thousands of deaths in the United States alone. So obviously, for that thesis, they took a stance that because there's lack of gun control, there's been more deaths in the United States. So you kind of want to pick your stance. Is there anything that you want to change about that sentence to make it a better thesis, or do you think it's good? The one that you made. I think so too. So in this activity, you would have typed your thesis statement in the chat box. But since you already have one, that's okay. You will want to use this as part of your exit ticket, though, so hold on to it. But we'll go ahead and skip this activity since you are a rock star and already did it. Alright, so here's the exit ticket. Like I always say, when you're finished watching the recording, you can always go back and watch pieces again and answer this and take your time. You don't have to stress about this. I typically grade the participation on Tuesday, so if it's not turned in by Tuesday, then you would definitely want to get it to me then, but always take your time with the exit ticket. Our questions for today: what is cause and effect writing? What is the difference between a cause and an effect? What kinds of sources should you use? Give specific examples. What does your thesis need to have in it? There's 2 things very specifically that we talked about that a thesis statement needs to have. And you want to write down your example thesis statement that you wrote for practice activity 3. Do you have any questions about the exit ticket before we conclude today? Okay, so I'm going to conclude the recording, and if you wanted to stick around and go over some questions, you're more than welcome to stay, but thank you so much.